Hi, Casey. Are you there? Okay.
Just unmute now.
I tried to unmute you too. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. Pretty good.
I'm so excited. I have my little fireside.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yes.
So I got a question. So it's not picking up my video where when I tested it before, it kind of showed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you see at the bottom where it says share? There's like a green arrow.
Bottom green arrow. Hold on, let's move this over here.
If you look at the bottom of Zoom, it says share. I can pull it up on my end too, but if you see that, you can hit that little button. Also, are you sharing your screen? Like, do you have your video on?
So yeah, I'm on full screen. This is encrypted recording.
So
Yeah, so I'm not seeing as many options to adjust or select on my end.
let me see. Let me share. Let me make you the host.
Sure.
Go to you, make you the host. Hold on. Right, I'm not seeing it either. So it says you can share. So you don't see at the bottom of the screen. Do you see where it says mute and then it says stop video or start video?
Mute. Yeah, I see mute. And then I have no audio settings. What I have is it's a drop down. Let me try something else here. So I have this couple of ways that we can do this. Chat leave meeting. Yeah, because I'm not having or not seeing any of the controls on my end, Carrie. Let me sign out once and I'll jump back in and maybe that'll help. But all I'm seeing right now is chat, raise hand, and Q&A, and leave meeting, and then a microphone, and then like I said, a drop up arrow, if you will, that says select a microphone, select a speaker, test, leave computer audio settings. Let me check. Let's see real quick here.
Jeff, are you on here? Hey, Jeff, are you on here? Let's see. Maybe it's something in the settings. Oh, Kenny, do you know what I need to do? Should I go to Zoom? I think it's probably because this is webinar and I've never done a webinar before. So let me go to, see if I can edit this. Okay, Casey, what email should I use for you?
I used casey.l.fox, or no, excuse me, I'm sorry, casey.lfox1970 at yahoo.com.
That says it's not associated with a Zoom account. There is a panelist invite.
So let me try my other. Let me try my Boeing email. So I don't know if I have a Zoom account.
Yeah, it says you have no Zoom account for Casey L. Fox 1970 at Yahoo. So you want me to try your Boeing account?
Sure. Join, and that's I'm joining as well.
What'd you say?
Yeah. So it accepts either email. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. You don't have a Zoom account with that one either.
I don't have a Zoom account at all, I guess.
Okay, so let's see what Kenny says. The panelist invite. How do I do the panelist invite? Let's see. Just has to click through on the panelist invite. I sent one to Casey L. Fox at Yahoo, if that's the right email. Okay, so could you pull up your email and see if you just got
Check real quick
a
here.
request to be a panelist?
Inbox. Who sent it?
1970, right? It's
Yeah.
supposed to be Casey L. Fox, 1970 at Yahoo. I think Kenny's sending it right now. Oh, good. Hi, Marianne. Marianne's here. Another. Hi, Olivia. It's awesome to see you guys. I'm here. Can't see you, but hear you. So we're just going to wait a few minutes. Let's see. So I think Kenny is sending you that. No?
Yeah, I've seen it register in my email.
Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and try to put this Facebook Live. Let's see.
Okay, so I'm seeing Kenny. So I'm back in.
All right, we'll start in a few minutes. Okay, he sent it to you, Casey. So if you check it right now, you should have it. I don't know. Can you guys see me on the screen? I'm on the screen.
Create account. Launch Zoom. So I'm creating an account right now. And it looks like I have a couple of different options now, which is kind of cool. But it still doesn't allow me to, well, hold on, I'm sorry.
You may
I think if you turn it over to me, then I'll be able to receive it. Or I'll be able to share my screen, but I do see the option now.
Okay. Oh, hi.
Okay.
Do you have it?
Yeah, so I got it. Yeah, 17%. Start video. Share screen. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Let me see if I can do here.
Awesome.
How's that look? All right?
Yep, we can see your screen. We don't necessarily see your face
Video.
because you have a picture up, but that's okay. Yeah, if you start your video, we should be able to see you. So we will go ahead and get started if you're ready. Do you know how to show your video?
Check. I'm running through right now.
Yeah, just go ahead and share your video.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, okay. Let's see. There we are. Hi, Casey. Yay. There you are.
Hey, good morning. Sorry about that.
That's okay. A little technical difficulty, but we made it. So I'm so excited to introduce everyone to Casey Fox. I actually met Casey Fox on our China trip. We went to China together. So I was not in his PhD class, but I crashed his China trip and got to know him really well. And Casey, you just have such a unique story and a unique perspective because you've been working in aviation for 24 years at Boeing in leadership roles. But before that, you were also in the Marines. And then you have this rich context of being from the Native American community. And I love how you always are exerting leadership through the powwows that you do around around Southern California. So I'm so excited to have you. I have my little fireside here. Hope everyone can light a candle or have your little fireside next to you so that we can learn from you, Dr. Fox. And I just want to give you the mic and let you share your journey. And then I'm sure we'll have lots of questions to ask you.
Okay, cool. Good afternoon, everyone. I got to apologize in advance. It's probably been about a year since I've given a presentation or any type of lecture, so bear with me as I start to get warmed up. So I was pretty honored when Carrie approached me to dedicate some time to sharing some of my leadership experience with professionally and within the powwow arena, we'll say. What I'd like to do is to kind of go through, some of my background, some of my history, and kind of what drives me to do what I do and some of the choices I've made throughout my lifetime. So again, my name is Dr. Casey Fox. That's my alphabet soup right below my name, all the degrees. And the one thing that I really am probably the most proud of is my associate's degree, my AS. And that was essentially represents my first goal that I had from an educational perspective. And so once I achieved that, I wanted to achieve more and more and more. So everything to the left of my associates in science was kind of the follow-up milestones that I had for my educational career. I'm a Rickeraw, that's my tribe, and we are a tribe that's based on Fort Berthold Indian Reservation in central North Dakota. There's three affiliated tribes, which are the Mandan, Hidatsa, and the Rickeraw. We're banded together, and that's our reservation, come Fort Berthold, North Dakota. As I mentioned, I'd like to kind of take a couple minutes to give you a flavor of who I am, where I've been, and kind of what shaped me throughout my life. So I think one of the most effective ways to do that is to share my personal journey in a couple of slides. So I was born and raised in the projects of South Omaha. Adversity was one of the first things that we faced. I come up from a family of four brothers and sisters, and it was a struggle for my parents within the lower income arena to raise us. But food on the table, clothes on our back, went to school every day. So we met the basic requirements for surviving in South Omaha. I attended 12 different schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. There were 10 public schools that I attended, 2 reservation schools, and actually 2 reservation schools / boarding schools. Reservation schools obviously was Quincy's Elementary, which is my hometown, my reservation, and the boarding school, which is in Marty, South Dakota. And as I looked at this, I have another slide that shows all the pictures, all the schools I went through, and I just kind of summarize in bullet format. And while it looks like I've been through a lot of adversity throughout my lifetime with so much frequency within the schools, the outcome is that I'm a very adaptable person. I can just go out to any environment. I can survive. I can adapt, and I can apply myself. And so that was kind of one of the strengths that came out of that. I had NBA aspirations. There I am shooting a jump shot in high school, and I was destined for the NBA, or so I thought. In actuality, I ended up in the United States Marine Corps in the aviation environment. I spent 6 years, and while my NBA dreams were shattered, it led to 24 years of aviation. I've had the opportunity of working with a variety of commercial aviation customers, in addition to my more recent role, which involves the Kuwait military, the lower right-hand corner, which is F-18, that's landing. But I have a well-balanced experience level in aviation, both the commercial side and in addition to the military side. And I think the the one thing that really drives me with what I'm doing right now is I'm a former service member, and providing a modified airplane, providing a aircraft with a new capability helps service members to perform the tasks that they are required to make sure that everyone's safe around the world. So for career progression, I've given a lot of presentations in regard to career progression, and like to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So when I checked into the Boeing company straight out of the military, I had my vision of what my career entailed. And I envisioned, there's on the left-hand column here, there's a level of compensation that you'll acquire, and then the bottom line, which is the years of service. And so to kind of put in perspective, when I checked into the Boeing company, I viewed Boeing management structure such as this. At the bottom, there's the worker bee, and in the middle, it's middle management. That's currently where I'm at. And then you got executive management, which I aspire to. And again, when I checked in, I thought my career path was going to be linear. As time progressed, I was going to ascend to different levels because my aspirations were to be a leader in management. And what I found is that within the first couple of years, that did come true. Probably about 2.5 years into it, within the Boeing company, I was promoted into management. And the good and bad associated with that promotion at such an early stage in my career was that, sure, I achieved one of the goals of becoming a manager and a leader, but I lacked a lot of experience. So there was a knowledge gap because I didn't know a lot about the company, I didn't know a lot about products, and the people that I led, I didn't know exactly, how to get them or work with them to accomplish the tasks that we have to do on a daily basis. So there's an experience gap there. And so I did a introspective look and said, how do I close that gap? So that's when as I mentioned earlier, I started my career goal, which was to obtain higher learning, my associates, and it just shows the progression of my acquiring educational credentials throughout my career, and to kind of close that gap. And to be quite honest, it actually did help to close. It helped me mature, made me more educated or well-rounded manager as I led different teams throughout the Boeing company. Well, about like 19 years into it, my career, there was organizational change, and I found myself back at the worker bee level, which was kind of a shot to the ego, kind of hurt my pride a little bit because I worked so hard to get that next level of executive management, right? However, that's not it. That organizational changes happen all the time. It's just a matter of how you interpret them and how you adapt to them, right? And so as part of that, I'll call it an emotion, I did a lot of soul searching. Did I still want to remain with the Boeing company? Did they have what I needed to achieve a certain level of self-actualization, if you will? And the curious thing was, through the next couple of years as a worker bee, I found out that I knew a lot about leadership and how to lead people. When I was a manager, I was identified as a manager. People had to follow me because I had the legitimate power. However, when I got that title stripped away from my signature block when I sent out emails, I no longer had that. So I felt that I wasn't a leader. However, like I said, the next couple of years at the worker bee level again, I exerted a lot of expert power, and people still followed me, and they actually followed me more because I was the expert at the job that I performed for the Boeing company. And so while it was a shot to the ego, it still helped me to be engaged as a manager and a leader, and to really be more collaborative in accomplishing tasks every single day. Well, at the end of that 3-year period, there was a work transfer, and I had an option, or excuse me, I had a decision to make on whether I wanted to move with the work being placed in another state outside California. I chose to go with a layoff, and I started putting together a strategic plan on what I was going to do next. What was my next step? Because I'd be going back to square one and trying to find a new company and building my career again, right? However, a sister organization, they approached me and they said, you know what you've done, what are your career aspirations? Go lead this modification line in another state, and then we'll see how things pan out for you. Well, at the end of that, I actually got an interview, proved myself again that I was a qualified manager, and so I ended up being promoted again. And I consider about the 24-year mark is, while I'm not in executive management yet, I'm still on track to where I think I need to be in terms of leadership. So I'd like to switch gears here now that you kind of understand, where I'm at, what drives me. Talk a little bit about Native Americans. Obviously, I'm Native American, and the one thing I'd caution you with as a Native American, I'm not up here to represent every single tribe that's out there, every single Native American out there, right? I go out and collect data, just like every good researcher does. But what I found is that Native Americans comprise 1% of the population. We have roughly about 5.2 million Native Americans across the country. And out of that, there are 566 federally recognized tribes. And the one thing as I was doing research is that I found out that there are a number of tribes that are continuing to petition to become federally recognized tribes, because that's the key thing with any type of help from the government, any type of treaties, any type of, I want to say stipends, but any type of support from the government based on old treaties from way back when is to become federally recognized. And so, like I said, there's quite a few of us and quite a few different tribes. And when you talk about culture, just like every culture for everyone that's online right now, what distinguishes us or what defines our culture is, maybe our appearance. Maybe Native Americans will wear, long braids, or maybe the food we cook, songs we sing, our perspectives on spirituality, the way we dress, the way we dress on the street, our languages. It's a very diverse culture. I mean, when you say Indian or Native American, it just doesn't mean we're all the same. And what this slide is intended to represent is it's so diverse that there's essentially 566 different variations or interpretations of each of these bubbles within that cone that define the culture that we exercise in each subsect or subdivision of the 566 tribes. And again, I wanted to do a little bit of research and kind of give you a lay of the land, because believe it or not, even times like today is people don't know that we still exist as Native Americans or tribes. They still see us, riding horses. I mean, we still do that, but things like, well, we do that too. But the olden days, cowboys and Indians type thing, right? But there's been a lot of change through the landscape, and what I'll primarily do is kind of focus on my reservation, my tribe, and some of the commonalities across the other tribes that I've seen. From a economy perspective, 30 years ago, when I was growing up on an Indian reservation, it was pretty impoverished. It was very depressed. There weren't a whole lot of jobs, but my parents did the best they could to meet the bare essentials to survive within an environment. Fast forward, there's a lot of casinos popping up. And, case in point, our casino, it generates a lot of revenue, a lot of different opportunities. It creates jobs on a reservation that weren't there before. Energy, it's another big hitter for us. Fort Berthold, we're on this, the Bakken oil field. There's a lot of oil being pulled from the earth to be sold, to enter the economy across the United States, and that's a big boom over there. It's kind of like the gold rush here in California, back in the 1800s. And then the cool thing that I've seen is that there's a lot of investments that are being placed by the people who run, at least my tribe. They're reinvesting the money and the revenue that they're generating from, maybe casinos or energy, to prepare for the next generation, the next couple of generations, to make sure there's just something there, so I don't have to go through some of the things that we did as kids. From a housing perspective, all these different economy drivers or forces actually generate a lot of disconnects. The housing, for the most part, some of it's subpar, it's substandard type housing. So I think it's Section 8 or Section 6 housing, I think it is, low-income housing type stuff. The scarcity, there's not a whole lot of housing back home on my reservation, so it's really competitive as far as trying to find an apartment to rent. And the as you would expect, the demand on finding a place to live so you can work the oil fields or the casinos, everyone's competing for the same spaces, so the rents are really high. I mean, it's practically the same amount you'd pay out here in California for a 2-bedroom apartment. And the cool thing that I'm seeing too is that my tribe has a program where they're financing mortgages. So a lot of people are using some of the money that they're receiving, whether it be energy, whether it be casinos, to buy houses, maybe on the res or off the res. Now, from a safety perspective, some statistics out there that reflect that Native Americans in general, the assaults on Native Americans is 2 times higher than the national rate. And one of the most recent moves, and I think there was some legislation that was signed back in November by President Trump, the missing and murdered Indigenous women, the assaults, the violence against Native American women is 10 times the rate of the national average. To me, that's outstanding, astounding. And it's a good thing that there's a lot of visibility. Some with my community, and anyone who comes to Powell, they see that and they're embracing. They're trying to get involved and support this cause. It's very important for us. Health, alcoholism, diabetes, and suicide. We have the highest rates. And suicides are very concerning from ages 15 to 24. We have the highest rate nationally. So it's a concern for us. And there's a lot of good people in key tribal positions who are doing a lot about this. We have rehab centers being built. We have diabetes centers being built. They're changing the lifestyle to offset some of those negative aspects that affect Native Americans, in general. From a social perspective, there's inequities because of the some people have a lot of money on a reservation. Some people don't have a lot of money. Cool thing is recently decolonization and Renaissance. There's a cultural renaissance going on now. It's really thriving within the Native American community. Powwow, speaking your language, learning your traditions, and perpetuating that. And so everyone's embracing that and then getting away from more of the, we'll say, a lot of the colonialism that took place in the 1800s that made us into to the folks that we are today. But like I said, we're really embracing that and perpetuating that and carrying it forward. Political, tribal governments versus constituents. I see a lot of negative feedback against our tribal leaders and some of the decisions that they're making with the constituents that they serve. And what drives me to do what I do is the graduation rate. When I did my research a couple years ago, the graduation rate was I think it was like 69%. I fast forwarded, did some research, and the graduation rate for high school for Native Americans is 72%. Still concerning to me, although it was an improvement, it's still concerning. And based on the recent COVID-19 pandemic that we have, social distancing. We have an online forum to still practice our culture and have online demonstrations of our dances and things like that. So it's pretty cool to see. So we're adapting that within let's say a traditional type cultural environment. Now, to kind of get into my study, these are the factors that kind of drove me to do, personally what I've done in my educational career, plus some of the concerns that I had going to my research. At 9 months, our learning ability equals our peers. Fast forward to 2 years, our learning starts to fall behind. By 4th and 8th grade, our reading scores are lower than the peers that we go to the same classes and read the same books with. By 9th grade, 50% of us receive special education services. Now at the collegiate level, again, 72% graduation rate. At the collegiate level, we're looking at 23% of us obtaining a bachelor's degree, and less than 1% obtain a master's, and 1% obtain a PhD. So for all intents and purposes, I'm an anomaly. I'm a statistical anomaly because I shouldn't have ascended to the level of education that I have. But I have a unique set of circumstances that allow me to do that. But that's what drove my research. And out of all the legislation that I've read, all the executive orders that were geared towards catching us up, bringing that 72% up to like the 90th percentile, a lot of that literature that I read, legislation I read, indicated that learning Native American language and culture was the key thing to our educational outcomes, being successful. So that did sit well with me. So I started to research it, unbiased as I possibly could have been. But what I did is I solicited 25 Native American women across the country, and I asked them, on the right-hand side, the picture there shows 3 Powwow princesses. I know them personally. And essentially what this role is, it's a cultural role within a Powwow community where a organization will sponsor a young lady, ages all the way from, like, say, as soon as they can walk, all the way until they're 18 and beyond college as well. They serve in a role, they represent the organization, they represent the culture, they're experts in their culture, they're expert in their tribal practices, their languages, and things like that. So they told me, after all the research, is that there was a correlation between that role that they served and their educational outcomes. So part of that research, out of those 25 Native American women that I helped to prove that there was a correlation between culture and education, was that 100% of them graduated high school. Whereas, Native American women on statistics I read indicated that they are behind everyone. Even Native American men, Native American women were rated lower than 72%, we'll say. 100% of them pursued a college education. I had people going for an associate's degree, and I had one PhD student. So that was pretty reassuring that, this role that they served in did make an impression on them, who they were as leaders, cultural leaders as well as students. And one of the most significant themes that I've found in my research is that family, friends, and all the people that surrounded them throughout their high school education or educational career, for that matter, they were the biggest impact on them continuing to persist to achieve a certain educational milestone. And that's why I dedicated my time to this. Took about 6 years, but the key thing was that instead of researching airplanes, instead of researching organizational leadership from a corporate perspective, I thought it was my duty as a Native American student to go research this and show some of the positive things that are going on within our community. And this will be sitting on someone's laptop somewhere, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, that says, okay, I can build on this research. Maybe a Native American student, or maybe it'll be a non-Native American student, but they can use this research to continue. Sorry. And finally, what I'd like to leave you guys with is that, I have a lot of years of experience within Boeing. And I know that there was a previous Fireside chat where crisis was discussed. I had the opportunity to manage through a significant crisis back in 2001, which was 9/11. It was a huge impact to the airline industry and our customers, and it had a huge impact on our business. And while COVID-19 is one of the most significant crises that we have globally, I tried to draw correlations, and I couldn't do that, as hard as I tried. But what I did was I tried to think of it in terms of, I'm the common factor between both of those events, and how did I respond? And what I did, kind of a little plug here, two of the best professors that I've had, Dr. Jen Schmieder and Leo Millette, Dr. Leo Millette, they developed a Spell It power matrix. Essentially what it was is, I'm sure you've heard of SWOT analysis, or whether it be NOT charts. It's a way of assessing organizational change and how organizations is responding. So spell it: social, political, economic, legal, intercultural, technical, and safety. I incorporated that myself. But what I did is I tried to figure out, what did I focus on, the business or the individual? And as you can see on 9/11, since it wasn't so personal and upfront in our face as far as the individual impact, I focused a lot of my stuff, or a lot of my time and effort, on the business. Fast forward to COVID-19, it's more personal. It's in our faces. It could affect any one of us, and it could be a life changer for any one of us. And so, whether it be COVID-19 or not, if there was another 9/11, I think I would still focus on the individual prior to the business, just because I'm more mature as a manager, and I'm more authentic, and I try to be more in tune with my people, the team that I'm leading, to make sure that they're okay, because I'm a firm believer that take care of the people, and the business will take care of itself. And I still practice that today. We change our landscape and how we conduct business, but we're continuing to forge ahead. And I'm at the forefront of that, leading through this whole change. And I'm making sure that I'm definitely using all of the education that I've learned at Pepperdine to be a more personable leader, approachable as well. And with that, Washi Weharesh, which is Mandan for thank you, although Marikara, I speak a little bit of Mandan. And then, if you need to contact me, here's my contact information. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Dr. Sisna.
Thank you so much, Casey. It was great to hear your journey, your leadership journey, and just see things from your perspective a little bit. So I'm going to open it up for questions. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, there's a little box at the bottom for Q&A. So go ahead and tell us who you are, We have leaders from across the city of Long Beach, and we have some people from Pepperdine as well joining us today. So could you just tell us who you are and any questions that you might have? And if you want to use the chat box, you can use that too, if you'd rather use that than the Q&A box. So Casey, can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with the powwows now that we can't meet in person? Are you guys shifting to anything?
So I mentioned it, is that so the one thing about Native American in general is that we tend to use humor to get through hard times. And so with that being said, we have this online Facebook page where we post or having a virtual powwow. So rather than being in the arena dancing say I'm a grass dancer dancing in my category, I would post a video and a song and the purpose of why I'm dancing. Some people will do it to be competitive, so we're trying to think outside the box, if you will, to still stay engaged, because what I kind of explain to people is that powwows are like church to some of us. We religiously practice it. We go there for camaraderie. We go there to be social, and we go there to connect with other people that are like us. And so you remove that, and then you disconnect us. But as I said, this social this powwow that we have going on, social distancing powwow that we have going on, it helps us to stay grounded and to persevere through this, and to still have fun practicing our culture.
Glad you're doing that, and let us know if you think of ways we can support the Native American community too. So Autumn Willinger is from Pepperdine, and she works at Noodle Partners, so they do online education. She says, can you share with us who is advocating for the Native Americans in Washington, D.C.? I'm referring to the power grab for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and how the administration revoked their reservation status.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to, like I said, the dangerous part about being up here talking about Native Americans is that, unfortunately, I can't respond to that. If you ask me something about my tribe, yeah, I'm sure I would be able to. I'd say my tribal leader, who is Mark Fox, he's the guy in Washington lobbying for some of our needs and trying to make sure that the government upholds some of the treaties or some of the agreements that have been in place for hundreds of years. So unfortunately, I can't speak any more about that just because it's outside my area of expertise.
So each tribe has their own representative in Washington?
So it's not in Washington per se, but we have some political senators like Jonathan Wendy Boyd comes to mind. We have a couple other female Native American representatives who are currently in Washington as senators, right? And they are making change, making sure. But again, I'm thinking they rely primarily on the tribal government and representatives, the tribal chairman, so to speak, to connect with them to make sure that their needs or their requirements are met.
So Josefina Cruz Molina is a Leadership Long Beach alumni she's in the current class for 2020. She's going to be pursuing a master's in leadership development this coming fall. Do you have any books that you would recommend? So leadership books that you'd recommend?
Oh boy, I got a lot of them. What would be this? So I think from a leadership, are you talking more of some leadership books that I would recommend that personally helped me? I think any of the leadership books that Pepperdine recommends as part of a curriculum are key. You develop a laundry list of books that you acquire, and as you're writing your thesis or your dissertation, you're always going back to those books. So I think if I was to recommend one that I personally like for myself, it would have to be it's a book for Ernest Shackleton. It was really cool. He led the expedition. I don't know if people know about him, but he led a great expedition. Trapped in Antarctica on ice for so many hundreds of days, and he didn't lose one of his team. And so they kind of did a retrospective analysis of his leadership style. And I thought that was really neat um, to see how they reconstructed, some of the, maybe analyze some of the decisions that he made and apply those to modern principles. So, it's a great read. It's not dry for all intents and purposes, but like I said, that really helped me to think critically about some of the decisions I made as a manager. So I kind of getting chills right now talking about that, but it really hit home with me when I read it.
Are you talking about the book Endurance?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that is an amazing book. And that's a great reminder right now with what we're in, because with Endurance, basically they set out to get to Antarctica, I believe.
Yep.
And whereas attracting a crew, it's like, we don't know if we're ever going to make it or if we're ever going to make it home, but we're looking for adventurous people who want to try.
Yep.
And he found a team, and halfway through, their mission became like, how do we get the team home alive? And they made that mission happen. And so it's really a good reminder right now of like, okay, we may have at the beginning of the year started out with a certain mission, but because of COVID-19, we're going to have to switch gears. And that's a really good book, Endurance, for all of us, because we're going to have to get through this, and our mission has shifted, but together as a team, it's now to stay alive. That's the new mission, and we can do it. And so I'm so glad you brought that up, Casey. So we have two questions that have come through. One is from Lexi. She's here from the Pepperdine Global Leadership Program, and thanks you for this topic. She says she studied First Nation cultures for several years and is wondering, what do you think are the top 5 needs of the First Nation tribes in California? And do you think First Nation tribes and reservations suffer more in the states identified as racist states?
Oh boy, that's a man. I try not to formulate opinions. So for the first question for California, again, this isn't. Although I've been in California for over almost coming up on 30 years now, I'm far removed from what's going on back home. But my heart lies back in North Dakota with my tribe and obviously my family. But some of the priorities in California, I used to work for an organization here in California, Southern California Indian Center, just be the chairman of the board of directors over there. And it was really challenging. It was really challenging simply because we were supposed to provide services, social services, whether it be food pantries, whether it be job training, whether it be job placement, maybe some real simple health stuff. It became really challenging, I'll say with the current administration, with how much money was available to support the community. So I think in general, I'm comfortable saying that in general, Native Americans are definitely an impoverished group of people. And it's a struggle for us, especially here in LA. Cost of living is very high. That's why those organizations were created. So it became really challenging to compete for grants to continue providing those services. And at the time I left, unfortunately, because of my job changed a little bit, I couldn't volunteer my time anymore. It was a really critical time. How do we continue? Kind of like Shackleton. How do we continue now that things have changed? They have a great replacement, a personal friend of mine, who's picked up the torch he carried forward, and they're finding different avenues in pots of money, so to speak, that continue those services, those cultural services. One thing I'm seeing all the time. But in general, I think it's just the basic needs, just like everyone, health, jobs, and just welfare and well-being. Those are the most important things out here in LA. Now, as far as the second question, I've lost my train of thought on that one. So could that be repeated?
Yeah, do you think First Nation tribes suffer more in the states that are identified as racist states?
Yeah, that's where I kind of try to sidestep that one. So what I'll say is, I think we're as much much negative publicity that California gets. We're very diverse. So luckily, we don't experience that. So I don't want to speak negative about my home state or anything like that. But my exposure to racism and just because this color of my skin, because I was Indian, dates back to when I was in the military. There's some signs of racism back then. And then when I went to another state, there were evidence of racism there. And my niece, I was with her and we went to the store, and I could tell she was kind of timid going into a store, let's say a predominantly white area of the state, and I noticed that. So I kind of demonstrated, you know, here's how you interact with. You don't need to be intimidated by anyone. You are who you are. You don't need to change for someone and be shy or think that you're less than. And I had a talk with her, and this is probably about like 15, 20 years ago, and hopefully that stuck with her. But like I said, now, like I said, the renaissance or the cultural renaissance that we're going through, it helps us. I mean, it makes us stronger. We have the same beliefs. There's core elements, even though it's diverse and different interpretations, there's core elements that keep us on track. Language, traditions, and practicing our Native American songs, dance, things like that. Making sure that that's in place. That helps us to offset, outside forces, if you will. But as far as racism, it still exists. I don't know if it's as what would you say, as violent as it used to be, but I think there's probably a lot more on racism, like on Facebook, But again, like I said, I haven't seen a whole lot of violence, but it still exists, and I guess that's my point. So the point or the question is that, yeah, I think it still exists. We have a long way to go still.
Yeah, and I love how your research just shows the power of education and understanding Native American culture and how that can counteract a lot of the negative, or offset, like you said. And I think that's the case for all of us. The more we learn, the more we are prepared to counteract a lot of ignorance and a lot of, be empowered. So thank you for sharing that. We have one more question from William Gillespie. So he says, "Hi, Dr. Fox. My name is Bill Gillespie. I work for California Resources, a California oil and gas company. He's currently in our executive leadership class for 2020. Right. So he says, I grew up in Oklahoma and worked on the Osage Reservation, and with full Seminole in my 3-man work crew in oil fields near Tulsa when I was younger. My son-in-law has a great-grandparent that was full Cowlitz from the saddle of Oregon. Can you talk a little about the role models young Native Americans have to look up to?"
So I've had the luxury of being invited to speak at a couple of colleges, UCLA being one of them, Riverside as well. I know the people that are heading up those Native American programs that they have over there, and it's really neat when I up there stand. So the last presentation I gave was at UCLA. I sat in the back of the class. I had a flannel. I had my Fox hat on. You can tell who I was. I had jeans on and just looked like a regular student. And they all congregated in there, and they were looking around for the teacher or the person who's going to be Dr. Fox they were looking for. And so I got up there. I walked up there, and hopefully you're starting to envision the way I was dressed and the message I was portraying. I was, maybe a little thuggish, we'll say, and it was on purpose. So as I gave my presentation, I was talking, and I very subtly I removed my flannel, which was kind of black and white or whatever. Took off my hat, put on my necklace, my medallion. I put on my vest that I wear at powwows when I'm emceeing, and I had my khakis on. And I changed my whole perception. And I did that throughout my whole lecture. And to answer your question, I think some of the role models that people can look up to, when I was growing up, sports was key. Sports was key for us. It was our ticket to the next level. That's why I said I had aspirations. I had hoop dreams, NBA aspirations. But luckily, I was a good student, and I actually tested well on the military test. I made it into the military. Really good job in aviation. But when I was growing up, it was sports. Not saying that that's not a bad thing now. But I think as people see folks like me and you, I can't remember the gentleman's name. What was his name, Carrie?
Bill.
When they see people like you and me, they see us achieving or going for a master's degree or going for another doctorate degree, running our business, being leaders in the community. They see us becoming doctors. Those are the new role models that I'm saying. Um, Not to say that, people that are really good at, dancing or really good at singing, those are role models too. Um, but anyone doing anything positive to advance Native Americans, those are the role models. Those are the people you have to watch. Those are the people you have to emulate. And that's kind of the message that I teach my son. I don't care what you do, shoot high, shoot high, be a great athlete, have fun in school, do well. I said, but most important thing at the end of the day is your education. I said, where are you going to get your doctorate? I'm having conversations like that with him because he knows he watched me. He watched me for a couple of days. And to kind of go back to that presentation at UCLA, I had that question. How do you do it, Dr. Fox? How did you do it? You have a family. You had to balance all this stuff. I said, yeah. I said, my son, he actually did that. He helped me to finish my degree because there were so many times, my PhD, there were so many times that I threw in the towel. I said, I'm done. I want to go powwow. And, I had a conversation with one of the younger members in the community. He says, powwows will always be here, man. They're always going to be here. Go finish your degree. And he was a lot younger than me, but it kind of hit home. And my son, the gentleman in the audience at UCL, he says, how do you do it? I said, no, I'll tell you what, your son, you're setting the example for your son. He sees what you're doing. I said, just planting that seed now is going to change his life. He sees you. The probability of him going to college it's going to be greater because he sees you setting that example. So again, Bill, like I said, we are the role models for all of our future generations to come.
I love it. Well, if the rest of you don't mind just writing something in the chat box, just putting who you are, introducing yourself to Casey, letting him know what part of the city you're in or anything you're facing. If you have any questions, please feel free to do that. Casey, one thing about the Native American community is they are no stranger to adversity or to crisis. Just having to face so much adversity over generations. And now one thing that we all have in common through COVID-19 is this is affecting everyone. Everyone is affected in some way and having to deal with this kind of adversity and crisis. Not comparing the two at all, but looking to you as a role model for how do you ground yourself spiritually through a very difficult situation, and how do you not let that fear overcome you so that you become paralyzed. Any kind of tips you have for dealing with stress and crisis and adversity, things that we can learn from you and your community?
Yeah, I think I did it. And so again, humor is really one way of coping, at least, for myself. And so I work hard. I've actually been in quarantine for the last 7 months. I've been working from home, which is a luxury after all these years. So I've been pretty much by myself all this time. And then, Zion and Lisa, they'll come and go and things like that. But TV's off. I don't listen to it, but as soon as I log off, I go down and I watch the news. And about 15 minutes into it, it's weighing heavy on me. I mean, it just bogs me down. Everything that I accomplished today, every decision I made is so insignificant compared to what I'm seeing on TV. So to stay grounded, again, I tried to make sure that the people whom I'm responsible for, which are the guys, I made an unpopular decision recently. I have a team up at Lemoore, California, and we work on aircraft. And I started ordering computers, and I made a decision when everything started to look like it was going south for California. There's going to be a lockdown. No one's going to go anywhere. I sent them home because a lot of them work out of state. I sent them home with a computer, and although I got some feedback from leadership, it was the right decision for me. I didn't have to worry about them being up on the moor stranded, not having someone to take care of them. God forbid something happened to them. So that helps my professional sanity, if you will. Personally, after I get done watching the news, I go straight down to my gym. I'm lucky I have a gym in my garage, and I work out, and I unwind, and I think And then I plan for the next day. You know, if something comes up, you know, how do I respond to someone getting sick? And the cool thing about Boeing is we have a really, it's a new system, but it's pretty comprehensive in the fact that we're keeping track of everyone and where they're at, what they're doing, how they're doing, are they able to telecommute, things like that. So that kind of helps me as well. But it keeps everything in perspective, and I just try to stay positive for my son, because he's watching this, and I just wonder what's going through his mind. So I have to put on a game face, you know, and not saying that I disregard everything that's going on, but I definitely try to stay positive through the whole thing.
Great. And thank you very much for that. So Bill says, thank you, Dr. Fox. We also have a question from Renee, who asked where she could find your research that you referred to earlier. Is there, can they find it online?
Yeah, I'm actually selling that for $100. No, I'm just kidding. If you would like that, I mean, just send me your email, and I can get it to you. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's not my greatest work. So if you find some errors in there, which you probably will, I've found a couple already. But it kind of provides a framework of what I did. It's a phenomenological study. It was, like I said again, to try see if there was a correlation between culture, language, everything I defined as culture in the beginning of the presentation, and educational outcomes for those people that served in that Powell Prince's role.
I love it. And I wish that we integrated more learning about culture into our curriculum across the board. I think we would all be better off. And I think they do probably more today than when we were kids. So we have Carl's from the airport. He's the operations manager at Long Beach Airport. He used to work for Boeing, so he's on. He says, thanks for your talk. And Nancy Villasenor, she's at the City of Long Beach Public Works. So she says, thank you for doing this. Andrea Testa, she's in our current executive leadership program for 2020. She is at Long Beach, Cal Heights, Bixby Knolls area. She's a realtor, so she's on. We have the Long Beach City College Foundation executive director, Paul Kaminsky. So he says, love your demeanor and your passion for education. And Andrea Testa says, the humor has been great for me. So humor is a great strategy for getting through this, for sure. It definitely is. It does something in your body. It helps your body heal, and it helps your body handle stress. So Lexi says, hi, Dr. Fox. My name is Lexi. I'm an Iranian American and feel very connected to the First Nation tribes. I live in the Malibu land of the Chumash. I always ask my friends to watch the documentary Broken Rainbow. I would love a copy of your research. So she gave her email. I'll make sure to connect you with her.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there are no final questions, let me see. It looks like we might have another question that came through. Okay, so Sue Finley. She says, thanks, Casey, for an amazing talk. I'm Sue Finley, an alumni of the EDUL program and a professor of online psychology at Pepperdine. Over the years and with all your experience, what has been your most rewarding scenario for being a leader? So what's your most rewarding scenario for being a leader?
So my most rewarding scenario was when I described my career path and I got demoted and my legitimate power was taken away from me. Like I said, it was a shot to the pride, but I learned the most about my leadership and I will say the followership for those folks that I still continue to lead, because although I went down a level out of management, all the managers that were my peers, they still looked to me for guidance and direction. And they were very respectful, and they knew that I was the expert in the position that I supported for the organization, as well as the customer. So all that hard work that I put into the previous years, it didn't go out the door as soon as I was demoted. It just reinforced the fact that you strip that title away from me as a manager, I'm genuinely a leader, an authentic leader. And that was kind of cool. That was very rewarding for me.
I love that. I love hearing stories when people either get laid off or demoted, and that usually becomes a peak experience for them in their growth as a leader. So I think it's a beautiful reminder. Sometimes those challenges really lead to the greatest mountaintops. Yeah. And I keep trying to remind my team as well, there's always a dip before growth. So we are experiencing a lot of challenges, but hopefully that will make us stronger in the end. And I think that's just such a good message for us all right now. So there's one more. Hello, Dr. Fox. My name is Jennifer Rojas from Long Beach Water Department, and she's in the current executive leadership program at Leadership Long Beach 2020. And just says, great discussion today. I just wanted to thank you for your time and sharing your insight with us. So we have a great diverse group of people online from all across the city. If anybody has any other questions, there's just a thank you, Dr. Fox and Dr. Cisna. This was great for building community. Any other final thoughts you might have, or any final questions from the group? But if you want to leave us with some final thoughts, Casey, feel free to do so.
Yeah. So hopefully I was able to share information that you guys can reflect on, maybe utilize, reference, and and I'll say it again and again. As leaders, you really need to know who you are, and more importantly, you need to know how people respond to you. You need to have that innate ability, and that we're going to say that emotional intelligence to truly understand how people are following your leadership, whether it be good or bad reactions. You have to be able to have that. And I think as long as you have that insight or that intuition, you're going to be successful in just about every situation, every decision that you make as a leader. And I think over the years, I've developed that ability to do that. And crazy thing is I'm building a virtual team. I haven't met one person that I'm currently responsible for leading right now. I do it all via telecom, all through chats like this every day. But it's really cool because I'm at a level to where I can lead effectively, even in a virtual environment now. And it's cool. It's really cool to see.
I totally agree. So Dr. Jane Galloway is from Leadership Long Beach, 2015. Thank you so much for your focus on evolving from manager through crisis and into leadership. I think that's a really powerful message, and she wanted you to know, thank you for sharing that. What is your biggest dream? That came from Lexi.
My biggest dream, professionally or or personally?
You could do both.
Okay, so my biggest dream professionally. Wow. Well, as you can see, I wanted to be a CEO. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But as I retire from Boeing, because I have roughly 15 years left before I'm eligible for retirement. At my retirement ceremony, I want to have people that I invite or who invited to let me know how I affected them. Maybe have changed them personally, may have affected them professionally. To me, that would just be the cherry on top professionally, as far as, did I do everything I envisioned in my mind? Did that come across to the people that I led? Was that my intended purpose? Did that come across with the messages that they're conveying to me as I'm waving goodbye to them? That would be the most rewarding professionally. Personally, I've toyed with the idea of going back to school again. I really thought about that. But I think at some point in time, I'd really like to be involved in the educational arena. I would like to take all the experiences I've had, the interpretation of everything that I've been taught, the application of everything I've been taught at Pepperdine, we'll say, from a leadership perspective. Make sense of all that. It's not just text, but just give a genuine, real-time educational experience for those people attending classes that I would teach, helping them to connect the dots, so to speak. This is why we're teaching you this. This is why you need to learn this. This is why you have to take this 50,000 self-assessment, whether it be Myers-Briggs or whether it be DISC or whatever we're using now. This is why, and you have to understand that data, because you really have to understand who you are. That's the most important thing as a leader, as far as I'm concerned. You have to know that. You have to know who you are.
So powerful. Know who you are. That's how you are a leader. Just really know what you're good at and become a subject matter expert in whatever you're passionate about. And I love your commitment to lifelong learning. I think it's awesome that you want to keep learning, even though you have a doctorate. That's something definitely we all have in common here on this webinar. Everyone at Leadership Long Beach want to continue learning, especially that's why they're so appreciative that you would jump on this webinar and teach us from your perspective. So we'll just wrap it up really quickly. Dr. Casey Fox, I loved your reference to legitimate power. And I think that's such a good reminder of the different types of power and privilege, but specifically dynamics of power when it comes to leadership. I know we've studied a lot about power and how expert power is when you have an expertise in something in particular, and that makes you people have to come to you. So if you're an expert in IT, you have a lot of power in that area. Everyone needs you, or whatever it is. Referent power, how you give people rewards. And so for you to keep talking about legitimate power, and once you lost that title that comes with legitimate power, you had to really explore what does it mean to dig into your own individual power as a leader. And I think each one of us does have power, and that's the beauty of leadership, is understanding what is our strengths and what is our passions, and how does that give us power in the world. So thank you for we should do a talk just on power and all the different kinds.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, we should think about that, because that's so important for us to think about. And then too, just the dynamics with the Native American community, and how even though they've been stripped of power in some ways through generations, how they still have so much power because of their culture, and how much we can learn from the Native American community. So thank you for sharing and just keeping this front and center, that we all need to be educated in the different cultures. And I love what you're saying too, like one person is not going to know all Native American nuances. And so part of cultural intelligence is us knowing the difference, and being able to not put people into a box. And so thank you for that reminder too. There's so much you shared with us, so many nuggets of truth and wisdom. So thank you for being here. And I'll just let you have the final word if you want to just say something to close us out. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I really appreciate this time, your attention, obviously, and I congratulate all of you. I'm probably one of your biggest fans, along with your families that are rooting for you to accomplish whatever educational goal that you have. I'm a resource now that you know who I am. This website, it's not a revenue generator for me, but you can click on there, look at some of the things I've done, and get in contact with me. Carrie, Dr. Cisna, she has my email. You guys can get in contact me with that way. But I'm a resource now that you guys know me, and don't be afraid to reach out to me.
Awesome. I'll definitely make sure that they know how to reach you and can maybe bring you into their communities to share more. So thank you for spending the day with Leadership Long Beach. We're very just proud of you, Casey. You're an amazing leader. Thank you for sharing your story. Okay. And thank you everyone else for joining. We will see you online next Friday. If you want to join us, we're going to be talking about stress and resilience, moving from surviving to thriving. And that again is a very timely topic as we're all kind of struggling. So Josephina says thank you. And we will see you next week online, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Bye. Casey, you did such a great job. I love it. I'm going to unmute you. Hold on. Let's see. You're on mute.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Right? You got to get back in the swing of it. But you did great. I mean, because you're used to presenting. It's just been a while. So.
Been a while. No, I appreciate it, Carrie, a lot. So if you need anything else, I mean, and I'm available, yeah, reach out to me. I'm here.
Yeah, you need to take this show on the road. I love it.
Well, so I've done a lot of presentations, a lot of career stuff, just all over, and I do it for free. Not who am I to charge people for stuff that I've learned and sharing my experiences. So it's not a big money maker for me. It's just kind of keep me in touch with the other aspect of kind of what I do. So
Yeah. And you had such a unique experience because you were in the Marines and at Boeing and the Native American perspective. So it's like, it's a trifecta of gold, like leadership gold.
yeah. How you doing? How you doing personally?
I'm good. Yeah. We're just, yeah, I think it's just a lot of fear in the, in society. And so I definitely feel that. And I'm trying to meditate every day and trying to stay grounded. So I know this too shall pass and we'll be stronger, but it's, it's just scary. The unknown is always a little scary.
Absolutely. Well, my thoughts are with every single one of you guys. And I know you guys are keeping your thoughts as well. So
Yeah, we are. We're trying to keep the good vibes up.
absolutely. Well, like I said, Carrie, if you have anything else that you need, or reach out to me. I'm here. So
Awesome. I will. You will hear from me. Don't worry.
cool. All right. You
Bye,
take care.
Casey.
All
See
right.
ya.
Bye.